Munich, September 5, 1972. The world watches in horror as masked gunmen execute Israeli athletes on live television. 11 men murdered, a nation traumatized, and in a smoke-filled conference room in Tel Aviv, a decision is made that will echo across 7 years and 3 continents. Every person connected to Munich will die. No exceptions. No statute of limitations. No place safe enough to hide. At the top of that list sits one name, Ali Hassan Salameh, the architect, the planner, the man they call the Red Prince. Before we dive in, hit subscribe to Mossad Classified. This channel uncovers secret missions, intelligence tactics, and covert history they never meant for the public to see. What makes a man untouchable? Is it his security detail, his political connections, his ability to blend violence with charm so completely that even his enemies hesitate to strike? For 7 years, Ali Hassan Salameh proved that all 3 could keep you alive despite being the most wanted man in the world. But nothing lasts forever, and on a quiet street in Beirut, on January 22, 1979, the protection would finally fail him in the most spectacular way possible. The Palestinians called him royalty. His father, Hassan Salameh, had been a legendary fighter who died battling Israeli forces in 1948. The son inherited more than just a name. He inherited mythology. Tall, handsome, impeccably dressed in suits that cost more than most Palestinians earned in a year, Ali Hassan moved through Beirut like he owned it, because in many ways he did. His power came not from holding territory or commanding armies, but from occupying the space between worlds that others could not navigate. Revolutionary fighter and international playboy, terrorist mastermind and diplomatic presence. A man equally comfortable planning operations that would kill dozens and attending cocktail parties with Lebanese elite. His lifestyle offended purists within the Palestinian movement. How could a true revolutionary drive expensive cars and vacation at Mediterranean beach resorts? How could someone claiming to fight for dispossessed refugees dine at restaurants where a single meal cost what a family in Gaza survived on for weeks? But Salameh understood something his critics did not. Power requires performance. His wealth and connections were not distractions from his mission. They were weapons as useful as any explosive device. His visibility made him seem invulnerable. His charm opened doors to people and places that guerrilla fighters could never access. And his relationship with Georgina Rizk, Miss Universe 1971, transformed him from wanted terrorist into celebrity rebel whose photograph appeared in society pages alongside revolutionaries. Israeli intelligence tracked him obsessively from the moment Munich ended. Their surveillance created a portrait of a man who should have been easy to kill. He traveled predictably between several residences in Beirut. He attended public events regularly. He drove routes that surveillance teams could map and memorize. Yet every attempt to eliminate him failed in ways that became increasingly embarrassing for an intelligence service that prided itself on precision. The first serious effort came in Lillehammer, Norway in July 1973. Mossad operatives tracked someone they believed to be Salameh to a small Norwegian town. They followed him for days, photographing him, confirming their identification through multiple sources. On July 21st, they executed their mission with professional efficiency. Except the man they killed was not Ali Hassan Salameh. He was Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan waiter married to a pregnant Norwegian woman who had never been to Munich, never worked for Black September, never committed any act of violence in his life. The Norwegian police arrested several Mossad agents within hours. The international scandal that followed damaged Israeli intelligence operations across Europe for years. Lillehammer haunted every subsequent plan. It proved that even sophisticated intelligence services could make catastrophic identification errors. It demonstrated that operational pressure could override proper verification protocols. Most importantly, it showed that Salameh possessed either extraordinary luck or extraordinary tradcraft that kept him alive when others died in his place. Inside Mossad headquarters, Salameh's file grew thicker with each month. Analysts documented his meetings with Yasser Arafat, his coordination with Iranian intelligence officials, his travels to European capitals. They built psychological profiles attempting to understand his decision-making patterns. They recruited sources within Palestinian circles who might provide advance warning of his movements. Yet for all this effort, they could not find the opening they needed. An opportunity where identification was certain, the attack could succeed, and the team could escape before local authorities responded. The challenge was not just operational, it was political. Salameh had become valuable to multiple intelligence services for reasons that complicated Israeli plans to eliminate him. By the mid-1970s, he had established himself as a liaison between the PLO and American intelligence. The CIA found him useful as a channel for communications and as a source of information about Palestinian politics and radical Islamic groups. He helped prevent attacks on American targets, provided intelligence about Soviet activities in the Middle East, and served as a back channel when official diplomatic contacts were impossible. This relationship created friction between Mossad and the CIA. American intelligence officers argued that Salam alive and cooperative was more valuable than Salameh dead and martyred. They pointed to intelligence he had provided that prevented attacks and informed American policy. They suggested that his execution would close a useful channel and potentially trigger reprisals against American targets. Israeli officers countered that Salameh was personally responsible for Munich, had orchestrated numerous attacks against Israeli civilians, and represented a continuing threat regardless of his current cooperation with American intelligence. The debate reflected broader tensions about how democracies should balance immediate tactical advantages against longer-term strategic principles and questions of justice. By 1978, Israeli leadership decided that political complications no longer outweighed the imperative to eliminate Salam. 6 years had passed since Munich. Most other figures connected to the operation had been killed in systematic targeting across Europe and the Middle East. But the planner, the architect, the man whose role was central and whose continued existence mocked Israeli promises of justice, remained alive. Prime Minister Begin authorized a renewed effort with explicit instruction that success mattered more than diplomatic concerns. The operation required patience and a fundamental shift in approach. Previous attempts had focused on opportunistic strikes, waiting for Salameh to present vulnerability, and then attacking quickly. The new plan would be different. Instead of reacting to his movements, they would position assets in Beirut permanently, establish deep cover that could survive for months or years if necessary, and wait for the perfect conditions rather than forcing an imperfect opportunity. This is where the operational details become remarkable for what they reveal about intelligence tradecraft at its most sophisticated. Mossad deployed multiple officers to Beirut under various covers. Some posed as business people, establishing commercial operations. Others adopted identities as journalists, aid workers, or tourists with plausible reasons for extended stays. Each created separate networks of local contacts, rented apartments or offices, and built routines that appeared completely normal to any surveillance. The coordination between these separate cells followed strict compartmentalization protocols. Operatives might live in the same city for months without knowing each other's identities. Communications flowed through Tel Aviv rather than directly between team members, reducing the risk that one officer's compromise would expose the entire operation. This approach was expensive, time-consuming, and demanded extraordinary patience from everyone involved. But it created redundancy that made the operation resilient against random security checks, local investigations, or the exposure of individual team members. Quick reminder, if you're still watching, you're exactly the type of person this channel is made for. Subscribe to Mossad Classified for deep intelligence breakdowns, psychological warfare analysis, and the hidden truths behind the world's most feared agency. The breakthrough came from human intelligence inside Salameh's immediate circle. The exact source remains classified even decades later. Some accounts suggest a bodyguard was recruited through financial incentives. Others point to a driver or household employee who provided schedule information. Intelligence professionals studying the operation believe multiple sources contributed overlapping information that allowed analysts to build a comprehensive picture of Salameh's routines, security arrangements, and movement patterns. What they discovered was that Salameh, despite his awareness of threats and his elaborate security procedures, had fallen into patterns. He traveled regularly between several addresses, including where his wife Georgina maintained a residence. The routes he used were not random. Certain streets appeared repeatedly in his movements because Beirut's geography and traffic patterns created natural corridors that were faster or less congested than alternatives. These patterns created mathematical predictabilities that operational planners could exploit. The operational concept cantered on a car bomb rather than a shooting or other direct action. The decision reflected both practical and strategic calculations. A shooting would require operatives to close distance with Salameh's motorcade, engage his bodyguards in armed confrontation, and extract through a city where Palestinian factions controlled territory and could quickly mobilize armed response. The risks were unacceptable. A car bomb offered distance. It could be triggered remotely when conditions were optimal, destroying the target without requiring operatives to be anywhere near the blast. The team could observe from secure locations, confirm identity, activate the device, and be hours away before Lebanese authorities even began investigating. The technical preparation took months. Specialists arrived in Beirut with materials and expertise needed to construct a sophisticated explosive device. They acquired approximately 100 kilograms of military-grade explosives through channels that remain classified but likely involved Israeli intelligence relationships with Lebanese Christian militias who had access to substantial weapons stocks. The triggering mechanism had to be reliable under urban conditions where radio interference and electromagnetic noise might cause premature detonation or failure. Multiple independent systems were installed providing backup if any single component failed. The vehicle chosen was a red Volkswagen, common enough in Beirut to attract no special attention when parked on streets. The explosives were concealed in modifications to the trunk and undercarriage, positioned and shaped to direct blast energy laterally toward targets passing alongside, rather than vertically where much energy would be wasted. The car was positioned on Verdun Street at a location surveillance had identified as optimal. Traffic patterns at this intersection forced vehicles to slow while turning, creating moments where Salameh's motorcade would be traveling slowly enough for precise targeting. But the device was only hardware. The operation's success depended on human intelligence providing real-time confirmation of Salameh's presence and movements. This role fell to an operative we'll call Penelope, the cover name used in some published accounts. Her preparation for this mission began years earlier, when Mossad identified her as someone with the psychological profile and background suitable for deep cover operations in hostile territory. Her preparation included language training, cultural immersion, and the construction of a legend so thoroughly documented that it could survive scrutiny from suspicious neighbors or Lebanese security services. Penelope established herself in a Beirut apartment with sightlines to the Route Salam used most frequently. Her cover as an eccentric British woman interested in painting and local cats was carefully designed to explain why she spent hours on her balcony observing the street below. The presence of cats, fed regularly and visibly, normalized her constant visibility. Neighbors grew accustomed to seeing her there until she became part of the landscape, unremarkable and forgettable. This invisibility through familiarity was precisely what the operation required. By January 1979, all elements were positioned. The car bomb sat waiting on Verdun Street. Penelope maintained observation from her balcony. Support teams positioned at multiple locations around Beirut stood ready to assist with extraction once the operation concluded. Intelligence continued flowing from sources inside Salameh's circle, providing updates on his schedule and movements. The operational window was open. The only remaining variable was Salameh himself. On January 22nd, intelligence indicated that Salameh would be traveling that afternoon along the monitored route. The information came from sources considered reliable, but the memory of Lillehammer meant that visual confirmation was non-negotiable. The operation would not proceed unless operatives on the ground could positively identify Salameh in his vehicle before detonation. No assumptions, no mistakes, not again. The afternoon stretched with the peculiar tension that characterizes operations where months of preparation converge on minutes of execution. Penelope maintained her position, appearing to anyone watching as simply another afternoon on her balcony with her painting and her cats. Below, the red Volkswagen sat unattended, indistinguishable from other parked vehicles on a busy Beirut street. Support teams checked and rechecked equipment, confirmed communications, reviewed extraction routes one final time. At 3:35 p.m., Salameh's motorcade entered the observation zone. Multiple vehicles traveling together, bodyguards visible in lead and follow cars, the configuration matching intelligence reports exactly. Penelope or another operative positioned to confirm identity transmitted the signal. Target confirmed. Execute. The explosion tore through Verdun Street with violence that shattered windows across multiple blocks. 100 kilograms of high-grade explosive detonated with such force that the blast wave physically lifted Salameh's armored Chevrolet before tearing it apart. The 4 bodyguards in the lead vehicle died instantly. Their bodies and the vehicle's structure consumed by energy too concentrated for even military-grade armor to withstand. Bystanders who happened to be near the Volkswagen were killed before they could comprehend what was happening. A German nun walking to her parish. A British secretary returning from errands. 2 others whose identities were lost in the chaos that followed. Salameh himself survived the initial blast, but was catastrophically wounded. The armored structure of his vehicle provided partial protection that prevented instant death, but could not shield him from injuries too severe for survival. Bodyguards from the follow vehicle, their training overcoming shock, pulled him from the wreckage and rushed him to the American University Hospital. Doctors worked desperately, but the internal damage was too extensive. At 4:03 p.m., less than 30 minutes after the explosion, Ali Hassan Salameh was pronounced dead. The operational team executed extraction protocols with the same precision they had applied to every other phase. Penelope left her apartment through routes planned long in advance, traveling to predetermined locations where vehicles waited to move her toward Lebanon's coast. Other team members similarly departed their positions, scattering through Beirut before converging at extraction points. By evening, they were aboard vessels in international waters, heading toward Israel. The operation had succeeded. The target was eliminated. The team was safe. Lebanese authorities discovered the abandoned apartment on Verdun Street within days. Neighbors recalled the quiet British woman who had disappeared immediately after the explosion. Inside, investigators found art supplies, cat food, and a British passport bearing the name Erica Chambers. The passport was real. The person existed. And the revelation that Mossad had used an actual British citizen for the operation added another layer of diplomatic complications to what was already an international incident. The funeral drew over 100,000 mourners into Beirut's streets. Yasser Arafat served as a pallbearer, his grief genuine for a man he had considered almost like a son. His public statement was brief but carried clear implications. "We have lost a lion." The warning was understood. Israel would pay for this death. Retaliation was coming. The only questions were when and where. The CIA was furious. They had been working with Salameh. He had provided valuable intelligence and served as a communication channel. His assassination eliminated a useful asset and demonstrated that Israeli intelligence would pursue its priorities regardless of American preferences. The tension this created between Mossad and CIA took years to fully resolve, though ultimately the relationship survived because both services recognized the broader strategic alliance mattered more than disagreements over individual operations. The international reaction followed predictable patterns. Arab states condemned the attack as terrorism. Western nations issued carefully worded statements expressing concern about violence, while avoiding explicit criticism of Israel. The United Nations held discussions that produced no meaningful action. And behind closed doors, intelligence professionals worldwide studied the operation with professional interest, analyzing what worked, what risks were taken, and what lessons could be applied to their own operations. The broader strategic assessment remains debated. Did eliminating Salam enhance Israeli security, or simply create a martyr whose death inspired new generations of militants? Did his assassination demonstrate resolve and capability that deterred future attacks? Or did it perpetuate cycles of violence that made peace negotiations more difficult? The answers depend heavily on whose perspective you adopt and what timescale you consider relevant. What is indisputable is that Mossad demonstrated operational capability that forced other intelligence services to reassess Israeli reach and determination. The operation required years of patience, sophisticated cover operations, meticulous planning, and the willingness to accept diplomatic consequences in pursuit of what Israeli leadership deemed justice. It showed that no security arrangement was sufficient protection against a state intelligence service with adequate resources, time, and determination. And it closed the final chapter of Operation Wrath of God. The systematic campaign launched after Munich that hunted down everyone connected to that massacre regardless of how long it took or where they tried to hide. If this story kept you watching, then don't just leave. Join the inner circle. Subscribe to Mossad Classified and turn future episodes into automatic intel drops. So, here's the question that still echoes across intelligence communities. Was 7 years of hunting and the deaths of 4 innocent bystanders in Beirut worth eliminating one man, even if that man planned Munich? Does systematic assassination serve justice, or does it simply perpetuate violence under the illusion of moral certainty? The Red Prince died on Verdun Street, but the questions his death raises about state power, targeted killing, and the price of vengeance remain very much alive.